So the next part I want to talk about is how to maintain sanity in this world of astrology on a daily basis. Okay, to illustrate this, I'll have to share some examples. So we can use the same logic as how we live on this planet Earth. All right. So let's take an example of a psychiatrist. Okay, psychiatrist is working in a mental asylum. He's dealing with a lot of people who are mentally sick, right? He has to deal with them on a daily basis, hourly basis. So, what do you expect of the psychiatrist? Keep in mind that this psychiatrist is a person that has to have such strong mindset. Okay, he has to have such strong mind. The fortitude in his mind has to be so strong that he will not go crazy when he is in that mental asylum. Okay, I don't know how many of you have seen the movie Silence of the Lambs, or if you have read Batman comics or watched recent movies, you will see Harley Quinn, right? What happened to her when she was in a mental asylum? She got tricked into it and she became a psychopath herself, right? And if you see actors, for example, like Heath Ledger, if you take, he was a person that literally got so wrapped up, engrossed into that role of the Joker, and he was a drug addict, and he lost his life to that because he could not stay sane. Okay, so there is a very fine line between sanity and insanity. Okay, same thing with dogma and reality, fantasy and reality. So don't mix that up. All right. So when you're really working with your own charts, for example, or the charts of the client, you have to keep that sanity and have that fortitude. Okay, no matter what's happening, what is going on in my life or their life, I have to keep my mental stability and emotional stability to deal with this. Okay, so it's not easy, right? If you're not careful, like I said, you can really get wrapped up. It has happened to me many times in the past. Okay, so I would do a reading. Like I said, I don't even know the client's face, their physical body, their presence. They are not even in front of me. Okay, I would do reading of that client, and then I would feel the entire energy in my body is sucked out like a vampire. you know they just suck the energy out of me. It's not the client, I'm not blaming any of the clients for that. It is just that certain planetary placements, and when I really get into the chart and try to understand what they have gone through, I sort of live that experience of what they have gone through, and that makes me drained completely. Okay, it's not the client's chart or they have done something bad or something like that that's making me go through that. No, it is just that it is so sensitive sometimes that you pick up that vibrations. Okay, so it is possible that if you're not careful, you really can get sucked into it. Okay, and you will not notice it if you're not sensitive enough. But if you are sensitive enough to such things, you'll see your moods will fluctuate quite a bit, and next few days, few hours, you will feel that. Okay, even looking at your own chart, sometimes when there is things that you don't pick up and you get a headache or you feel very bad about certain placements or certain spreads or whatever, it means that that energy is little bit heavy for you to process at that stage. Okay, so you have to really know this rule that you are working with energy, dealing with time and space, and it is not that easy, being a medium to communicate that. Okay, it's the reality and that's the truth. All right. And one thing also I want to discuss about the responsibility of the client. Okay, as much as I discuss the responsibility of the astrologer, of course, not making it personal, not bringing their ego and projecting that into the client is very important. Same thing what's happening with the client here on the client side is that if they don't get what they like, all right, if they don't hear what they like, most often, it's this is happening a lot with the Western clients, and they are always told they are great, they are the best and such things. Sometimes you'll see charts and you'll figure out, oh, this is not really happening, right? and some placements definitely give it away to you, that you have to communicate to them, and they will attack you for that. Okay, they will literally attack you. They will claim that your assessment is wrong, complete denial. Okay, and you will feel that you probably will question your reality that time. Okay, these are clients you want to not literally take. I will be honest with you about that. Okay, because 10 years ago, if you came and asked me, are there certain clients that you don't want to work with? I would say I will love to work with anyone and everyone. Okay, but I think over the years, wisdom probably, and the way I've had these experiences with certain people has made me realize that you can't save everyone in this world. Some people have to go through that journey by themselves. No matter how many astrologers, therapists, and psychologists they go through, they can't heal. Okay, there are people like that. Okay, this is not what I'm telling you. This is something I heard and I've learned from practical modern psychology. Okay, I will discuss all these combinations in future videos as and when we go. Modern psychology tells you that some people cannot be saved, and that is the truth. All right, you have to accept that truth. Like I said, comet is heading towards the earth, everyone is going to die. That is the truth. Okay, you have to accept that. And I'm sorry to say, as much as you like to help that person, you like to heal that person, do whatever you want to do to make that person happy, it's not going to happen, because these people, they are always going to be critical, and such people are there on this planet that no matter what you do, you will not be able to satisfy them. Such people exist, and what kind of people they are, what kind of combinations make such clients. Okay, I will discuss all these things in the future. It's very important. Okay, so we will see all that in the future videos. But there are people like that, so you have to be really watchful of them. In fact, it's best you don't deal with them. I really wish and pray for you that you don't have to deal with such people. Okay, because if you're not a very confident astrologer, okay, if you're not a person that is solid with your skills, okay, really solid skills, very confident with whatever you do, okay, I'm talking about like in the cards system, for example, if you don't have very solid clubs and diamonds, okay, in astrology, if you don't have solid Mercury, Jupiter, or even practically Venus, for example, to know what is really the truth and not the truth, okay, be very practical about the situation. What would happen is these people, certain clients that you get, will really make you question your own skills. They will create self doubt. Okay, they are inducing self doubt within you. They are going to make you feel that you're not good enough. All right, they are going to make you feel that your skills are useless. They will attack you for that. Okay, and they will twist and turn everything that you have told and project the opposite. These kind of things happen. All right, and they will even smear your name. They're going to go around, tell nasty things about you. It does not really matter. Okay, I will tell you why as we go. There are things that you have to keep in mind as an astrologer, which is, again, I told you this video is more in support of astrologers than the clients, because I've already done a video for the clients. This is more for the astrology community. Okay, so I really want you to be very careful with such clients. If your reality is tested, okay, like this friend of mine now, she's going through a crisis in her skills. She's going through a crisis in processing what is the truth versus what is false. Okay, if your reality gets tested like that, and if you are in a very bad period in your life, okay, you might just give up on astrology. Okay, you see what the client did now? They just made a person who was so passionate about his astrology and his skills or whatever they're doing, okay, they made them abruptly stop that because they did not get what they wanted from the astrologer. Okay, you see, so you have to be very careful with such people, and I'm honestly concerned with especially beginner astrologers. If they run into such people, it's good you don't take them. because you will go through a lot of crisis with them. You will go through a lot of problems with them. Okay, so they will trick you. All right, this happens again, like I told you, this is not only in astrology, this happens in therapy. This more often happens in therapy more than astrology, to be honest. This happens with psychologists and psychiatrists, where the client is tricking them. Okay, the whole reality of this therapist, the psychologist and psychiatrist, will come down crashing. Their world will come down crashing because of some things they were tricked by the client. Okay, such people exist. All right, so this is from the world of psychology and psychiatry that I'm giving you the information, not from the point of view of astrology. Okay, so the point here is certain clients you can never satisfy, and it's good you don't satisfy them also. They have to figure things out by themselves, and it is good they do that. All right, so you just have to set strong work ethics and strong boundaries and rely on your skills. Okay, and those skills, how to rely on that, how to bolster your skills, I will also talk about that as I go into the next part. Okay, again, to reiterate and emphasize this point that astrology is not a science for the faint hearted, right? I want to bring up an example from the Mahabharata. I always use this quite a lot. It's from, the character Sahadeva. All right, Sahadeva was one of the Pancha Pandavas on the protagonist side. And Sahadeva had a skill of intuitive abilities and knowing the future. Okay, he could know what is the outcome of the war, the Kurukshetra war for this matter, and he could see who is going to survive, who is going to die. Okay, so you can imagine the state he was in, completely, you know, shaken, right? His roots were shaken, you can say, because how can you live like that? There is a war, several 100,000 people are, going to battle, and he knows who is going to live, who is going to die, already in advance. Just like Sri Krishna. Alright, Sri Krishna was God himself in the epic, so he knew, of course. But Sahadeva was a normal human being who knew that. Alright. So in this case, you can imagine that it's not easy. So, like I said, if I'm an astrologer, I read my own chart and I figure out that some nasty events are coming up. If you're not in the right frame of mind, especially if you're not spiritually rooted, okay, if you do not know how to process that information in the right context, you will really lose your mind. Okay, you will not be able to live a normal life after such events happen. Okay, it's like a spiritual process. For example, you expect that many Westerners, especially, I meet a lot of them who are on the spiritual path, and their expectation of spirituality is that it will heal them, fix them, and rectify them and make them happy, happy ever after, literally, and they will get liberated. That's with the intention they go into spirituality. But the grand reality of things is the moment you start your spiritual journey, the most nastiest of the events start happening to you. Okay, all sorts of trauma, all sorts of karma will start burning. It's like a Pandora's box. You open that, only nasty things are going to come, which you have been hiding for a very long time. Okay, spiritual process is basically that you're running your life on a catalyst. Okay, you're speeding up the reaction of whatever is coming. You're burning your karma at a very rapid pace in the spiritual process. So all kinds of karma will burn. Okay, the good karma, the bad karma, but mostly the bad karma will be the one that gets burnt the most. So only nasty events you will experience for a long time, extended period of time, 7 years, 14 years, 21 years. Okay, but you have to hang in there. You have to persevere those events. If you don't persevere and don't go through those events, the good things that you're expecting, which is your enlightenment, your Kundalini awakening, or your chakras getting highlighted, or you exploding with ecstasy, all those things will not manifest. As simple as that. Okay, so it is literally like that with astrology. Okay, so you have to go through that process, of seeing things for what they are and just handling it to the best of your abilities. Okay, so Sahadeva, he had that kind of powers, and he stood ground to that, and he knew what was coming up, and of course, he might have cried as a normal human being. He might have gone through a period of depression and sadness, but he still processed it. Okay, do you want that kind of a power at your lap? Yes, you have that power with astrology, but you also see, let's say, the chart of your parents, your children, your husband, okay, and for example, when they are going to die, when they will have an accident, or when, for example, this marriage will end. Would you be able to process? No, because you're not apt enough to receive that information in the right framework, because you're not in that frame of mind to receive the good events, the bad events, and the ugly events, whatever might come, in the same levels, right? Because that's what you will see with astrology. Okay, so Sahadeva basically went through that process, all right, and he also had another thing, which I will talk about, a bit of ethics as well. All right. In that sense, if you see Duryodhana, who was the antagonist, and he came to Sahadeva, he asks him, "Can you cast me a muhurta? We are going to war tomorrow. Both of us will fight." All right. And of course, Duryodhana, he had more power in the epic with the army, a lot of power on this side when it comes to artillery and cavalry and so on. And on the Pandava side, only Sri Krishna was there, God himself. All right, so God sort of protected them. But he goes to Sahadeva and asks him to cast a muhurta for him. Again, an astrology concept there, that I have to win this war. What is the best muhurta to cast? Sahadeva, you see, is an astrologer first. That is his dharma and that is his karma, both. Okay, so he has to help, no matter even his enemy is in front of him, even the worst person on earth is in front of him. He has to treat him with the same kind of ethics and respect, and do the same work as if he's doing it for his own good. Okay, that is what dharma and karma dictates. All right, so if you go to a psychologist or a psychiatrist, no matter even if you're the worst person on earth and you confess that you've done some nasty things, they will still hold it within them, because for privacy concerns, and that is part of their profession, right? So it's just like that. So here Sahadeva helped Duryodhana to do what he had to do, which means he cast a muhurta and he set for that foundation for him to really, start the war at that time. But of course, Sri Krishna played his own tricks that time, and turned the muhurta into the favor of the Pandavas. That's another story. But you see, there are things that you have to tell as it comes. Okay, even like I said, it does not matter who is in front of you. All right, it does not matter if your enemy is in front of you, or your best friend is in front of you, or your parents are in front of you, or your family is in front of you. The truth is the truth, as much as it gets. Okay, you cannot sugarcoat that, you cannot twist that. And like for example, Duryodhana, you could have given him a bad muhurta and made him start the war at that time, where the Kauravas would have lost. Sahadeva could have done that, but he did not, because that is the truth. He has to live by his profession. That is the dharma he has to stick to. Okay, if he is not doing that, he's going against his dharma and he will commit mistakes. Okay, he'll get the bad impact of that. You see, that's where it's very important, all right, to maintain that policy of the truth. And that's why I say again, this is not a science for the faint hearted. All right, keep that in mind. So next I want to talk about two different things. All right, one is the concept of this is a science for the wisely, not the miserly. All right, people who are miserable and expect that astrology will suddenly you know be like a magic potion that they can have in their life to fix their life. It's not going to happen. Okay, so it's a science for the wise people who are able to see things for what they are, as they are. Okay, and to illustrate that, and also to illustrate the concept of spirituality and to debunk certain things of how spirituality is perceived, especially on the Western side, I have to give some examples. Okay, and for this, I have to illustrate a story, a small story of the avatar of Trivikrama, one of the Vishnu avatars. All right, so this is an avatar connected to Jupiter in planets. All right. So all of Vishnu avatars are connected to the grahas. Okay. So for example, the sun's avatar is Lord Rama, the moon's avatar is Lord Krishna, and Narasimha avatar is Mars, and so on. Okay. I will discuss this when I get into the future videos a little bit more. But for now, we will talk about Trivikrama avatar, okay, which is the Vamana avatar. All right. So this Vamana avatar, it happens at the very start of Treta Yuga. Okay, it is a sandwich avatar between the end of Narasimha avatar and the start of Parashurama avatar. Okay, so it's between Venus's avatar of Parashurama and Mars's avatar of Narasimha. All right, so Treta Yuga is just started among the yugas, and Vamana avatar starts. Okay, so what is the importance? All Vishnu avatars have the same theme, which is adharma, which means there was something that was wrong in the world, some demon or some daitya was creating problems to the earth, okay, or to the Vedas, or he was destroying the planet in some way, in the wrong way. So Vishnu incarnates to bring back dharma, establish dharma, and to establish order into the world, okay, and to restore power to the devas. Mostly that is the nature of all the avatars of Lord Vishnu, okay. So in this case, it is Bali, okay. Bali is the grandson of Prahalada was actually the um, son of Hiranyakashipu, all right. And this is connected to the previous avatar, which is the Narasimha avatar. So Bali is the grandson of Prahalada. And these are people who were part of the Daitya community, and their guru was Shukracharya. So Bali's guru was also Shukracharya, which means he was Venus. Shukra again is Venus. So Venus is the guru for the Daityas, all right. Then we have Vamana, which is Jupiter, who is the guru for the Devas. All right. So the avatar happens like this. At the end of the Samudra Mantham, okay, Samudra Manthan has happened, Rahu Ketu are born, Kurma avatar has happened, right? And, Saturn's avatar was mainly the Kurma avatar there. There, at that step, Indra defeats Bali, okay, and he's taken his life out. And he's restored power to the Devas. Indra is the lord of the Devas, okay. You have Bali there is still dead, but Shukracharya, which is Venus, has the reincarnation power, and he reanimates him and he brings back the dead Daityas to life. All right. So now Bali is reincarnated. And then Bali does a lot of penance and he gets the power to overthrow Indra. All right. So Indra loses his power. How does Bali do that? Bali does a lot of what we call as Ashwamedha Yagas. Okay, Ashwamedha Yagas are very powerful yajnas, fire sacrifices that they do, and by doing that, they acquire a lot of power and strength to beat the opponent. Okay, so he did that and he dethroned Indra. Okay, Brihaspati, again an incarnation of Jupiter, who is the guru of the Devas, here he tells Indra to go into hiding. Okay, because you don't have any power now. If you stay in this state in the world, you will lose. Okay, you cannot come back to power, so you go into hiding. So now the Devas just go to Lord Vishnu and they ask him to please help, restore power and give us the throne back in the Indraloka. All right. It's the way the avatar starts. All right. So Lord Vishnu, he agrees. Okay, I will do that. And how does he do that? Is he incarnates as a Brahmin priest, but he's in a dwarf state. Okay. So Vamana is born into the Aditya families, okay, and is the youngest among the Adityas, and his father is Kashyapa Muni, as well as mother is Aditi, who is the mother of all the Adityas, the 12 Adityas that are there. Okay, so interesting thing is that the Vamana avatar is the fifth avatar. It is connected to Jupiter. Okay, so now of course Vishnu is born, and Vishnu has to restore world order, right? He has to protect the Vedas, he has to restore power to the Devas. And he does that by visiting Bali and his kingdom. Okay. So Bali Chakravarti is very well known for, respecting the sages, the munis, the hermits. And whenever in those times, in the Treta Yuga, of course, I'm talking several thousand years ago, you visit a kingdom and you are a learned person, they will treat you with a lot of respect, they will revere you, okay, they will give you whatever you ask for and give you a lot of wealth, riches, whatever you ask, right? That's because you are such a accomplished person in knowledge. So Vamana Avatar, of course, Jupiter being a Brahmin priest, he was well accomplished and he goes there. So Shukracharya at this time, all right, he knows that Jupiter, Vamana Avatar's incarnation, that is Vishnu that is coming, and he wants Bali Chakravarti not to engage, because if you engage, it will be your downfall, and he suspects some foul play. Okay, something nasty is going to happen. Of course, that's the power of the gurus on the Daitya side. Shukracharya, very intuitive, knowledgeable person. Then Bali, of course, he does not take so much of attention to those words of Shukracharya. In the end, he engages with Vamana avatar of Lord Vishnu, and he is very much pleased at Bali Chakravarti's kingdom, and he asks, "Oh great king, would you not give me a certain, alms or gift or whatever I'm asking for?" And Bali Chakravarti, whenever a king especially is asked that you have to give me something, you cannot say no, especially to a guru, and he agrees. All right. That's the mistake he made, because even though Jupiter in that incarnation was a Vamana, a dwarf priest, what happens here is at the request, he says, I only want to take 3 strides. Okay, I wherever I take 3 strides, that land should be mine. All right, 3 strides, very small strides. And Bali says, okay, this is a very tiny person, a dwarf. What big things can he do? All right. So first stride he takes, he encompasses the whole earth. All right. Second stride he takes, he encompasses the 3 worlds. All right. That's above the earth. And then he's looking at Bali and he says, now I can't, take the 3rd stride. I've agreed that you have to let me take 3 strides. And Bali says, okay, now I realize this was actually a trap, that I had to be defeated, because I was an egoistic king. I had, acquired a lot of things and done wrong things to the Devas, and the order was not restored. So he sees the game that Lord Vishnu played, because he wants to restore the Dharma there. Right. So then he also realizes at that time what Shukracharya had done. Shukracharya, although even he's a Acharya of the Daityas, he still understands the whole reality of things. Okay. So he had warned Bali that you should not engage Vamana. But at the end, it was also something that he was aware of, that he will engage. Okay. He knew what was coming. It's not like Shukracharya knew that Bali will not engage, he will engage, was something that they played. All right. So the third stride, finally Bali says, okay, I don't have any place for you to offer, so you can put your feet on my head. And then he, pushes him to the ground and he dies. That's the end of the avatar. That's the end of the story. But what did you understand from this? There are many things that you can understand, even scientific, for example, about dwarf planets, how big Jupiter is as a planet. So many things that are there, like hidden semantics in it. But all that aside, as a Western audience, what did you understand? Okay, pause for a moment and think. Okay, I'm sure the Indian audience would have processed this in a different way, and the Western audience will process this in a very different way. I'm 100% sure of it. Okay. But for the Western audience, I'm more keen to understand what you've followed. You know, so you think, right? Again, coming back to astrology, there is a reason I told this story also. Okay. You'll think that, whatever Jupiter, Venus, two fantastic planets, right? Two great Soumya Grahas, they are always going to give you the best things possible. Okay. Wait until you go through Jupiter Dasha, Venus Bhukti, Venus Dasha, Jupiter Bhukti. Okay. I wish and I pray, literally, okay. I wish and I pray once again that you don't have to go through that in your life. All right. Because you'll think fantastic things are going to manifest, great things are only going to come of it. All right. But believe it or not, that will be the most challenging of your dashas in those two Mahadashas. Okay. Those two bhuktis will be the most challenging in those dashas. Okay. Again, to repeat, Venus Bhukti in Jupiter Dasha, Jupiter Bhukti in Venus Dasha. Alright, why did I tell that? Same story of Bali, the Vamana avatar, the Trivikrama avatar. Okay, Trivikrama means means three, Vikrama means a conqueror. So he conquered the three worlds with it. Alright, that's why Jupiter is such a huge planet. He's able to conquer whatever the three things that we are bound to. Okay, if you see, the concept of three is very common in the Hindu philosophy, Hindu religion, Vedic thoughts. It is connected to the the gunas that we have, okay, which is the sattva, tamas, and rajas gunas. So he conquers all three of them. All right, it is representative of three states. It is connected to the three states of consciousness. Okay, the Jagrat, awakened state, the Swapna or the dream state, and then Shushupti, the deep sleep state. So, in that state, Vamana avatar, Jupiter conquers the three states. And then there is the fourth state. What is the fourth state? I'm not going to get into that. It's way too out of context for today's discussion. But that is the fourth state that he is able to reach. Okay. So many things like that are there. You can interpret a lot from every avatar of Lord Vishnu if you read and understand a bit deeply. Point I'm trying to make is, what did you understand from the planets? Jupiter, Venus, right? Two great counseling planets, two great Saumya Grahas, two great, nice planets. You expect only nice things to happen. But why did nasty things happen there? Because both of them are wise Grahas. All right, you must really understand that it is not for you to always get what you want. It is for you to get what you must get, all right, in the long term. Okay, Bali had to be liberated. Bali had committed a lot of other atrocities, and for that he had to be punished. That's why Lord Vishnu incarnates and he destroys and kills him. All right, but if we let things go on as it is, right, then there would be adharma, which means there would be no order in the world. The scriptures, the Vedas, everything would be destroyed. So Vishnu incarnates to protect dharma, and Bali was wronging that, okay, because he was doing things wrong, he had to be punished. All right, so Jupiter in the front of Bali in the ashram is there, is visited the kingdom. Shukracharya is in the premises. Both of them, two gurus. You expect the guru to give you always the good things. You expect the counselor to always tell you that, oh, you're doing great. Okay. I see certain patterns in the chart. Okay, I see that this is going to make you have certain experiences. You must have already had these experiences, but I'm telling you not to go through these experiences, right? And I'll tell you also that if you go through these experiences, these things will happen. But yet you choose to go through that experience, then what is the meaning of it? Right? It's utterly useless. Okay. So don't expect a counselor, astrologer, or psychologist or psychiatrist to pat you on the back and tell you every time that, oh, you're doing great, and even clap, fantastic job, well done, and say that you are accomplished something by repeating the same patterns over and over again. Okay. It is in the realm of telling you those things that are good for you in the long run, not that are sweet on your ears, okay? Not soothing words that will make you happy, all right? So, this is the same problem that the Western audience will have when they approach spirituality, for example, okay? So, in India, you'll see, oh, there are many, many fancy stories for that matter, okay? You can look up. There are thousands of stories like that you will hear. Okay, I will give you one simple example. Okay, this is from my state in Karnataka. Okay, this is a saint called Devara Dasimayya. All right, he's from Mudnur in Karnataka. He is a Shaiva Bhakta. He is a Shiva devotee, and he was a weaver. Okay, in those days, weaving was such a fancy art and expensive art. Okay, and he was working on a certain masterpiece of his. He made a very fancy cloth, a turban cloth, made out of silk and fancy jewels, all of those things, a very big turban cloth. Okay, and he took it to the bazaar to sell. Okay, he had given a lot of time, several months of work has gone into this. Okay, years maybe, to make such a fancy cloth. The cloth was so big, so glorious looking, so beautiful to look at, that people even did not ask the price. Okay, they said this must be so expensive that even we can't, meet the demands that he's asking. We can't offer to pay for that. So then the whole day he spent at the bazaar. He came back home walking. All right, and then you see on the street there was an old man sitting there, and Devara Dasimaya is holding the cloth in his hand, and Dasimaya just looking at the old man is looking at him, and he says, I'm shivering here, and this cloth you have, such a nice cloth, right? It's such a beautiful cloth. Can you give me? It will be of use to me, that I can, cover and protect myself against this cold weather. Dasimaya, without even thinking twice, he just gives the old man that cloth. All right. And he stands there observing what he will do. And the old man, he does not have any clue. He's like a street person, a beggar you can think of. Okay. He was on the street. He has no clue what that cloth is. It's made of silk or diamonds or rubies. Who cares? For him, it was all about protection from the environment. So if you see that old man, he just tore the cloth into pieces. Okay, he took some on his body, some on his head, some on his shoulder, and just sat there. Dasimaya looked dumbfounded, like what has he done? It's such an expensive cloth, and what has he done? And that stage, the old man is staring at Dasimaya. Dasimaya is staring at the old man, and he says, "Is there a problem?" The old man is asking. And that step, right? Dasimaya tells, "No, there is nothing." And he realizes something, some experience that he has internally makes him feel that there is no problem. What does it matter if my cloth is used as a souvenir for the king, or if my cloth is given to the beggar? Does not really matter. He has that experience, okay, because it's a cloth at the end, okay. Then Dasimaya was also struggling without money and stuff, but he still takes the old man to his house to feed him, okay, because he wants to take care of him. The old man goes home, wife is yelling at Dasimaya. She says, barely we have food for ourselves to eat, all right, and you're bringing in guest, and how can I treat this guest, all right? So it's impossible for me to feed. And he says, just cook whatever is there. We will not eat the food, we will give it to him. Okay, because treatment of guests and treatment of especially, needy people, great sages, all those things were important in India. It's still important. Those times it is very important. Okay. So then they feed the old man. Okay. After certain miracles happen, the old man incarnates as Shiva himself. That was Shiva that was testing Dasimayya and his devotion. Okay. And Shiva incarnates and he blesses Dasimayya. He adds a few grains into their granary. That grains become Akshaya, which means it never depletes. Okay. And that grains keep multiplying over time. So with that ability that he acquired from Shiva, he was able to feed the whole village. Okay. By feeding the whole village, he was able to sustain, out of poverty, and he came to be known as Devara Dasimayya because he was like a miracle being, right? Feeding the whole village with as few grains of rice that he got from Shiva. It's a miracle. Okay. Devara means that one who belongs to God. All right. One who is of God. Devara, Devate is all. Deva is God. Okay. So this is the story of Dasimayya. And what did you learn from that? You learn that the moral of the story, you go through this process of attachment to certain things. Okay, he had spent years of attachment to the cloth, making it, and it was a work of art for him, and it was his masterpiece. Yet, it was not valued in the society. Shiva literally, in a different form, tore it into pieces. That is the ego getting shot into pieces, literally. Okay. His expectation when he went into the bazaar was he would get a lot of money, but he did not get even a single penny. On the other hand, even the worst happened where the cloth got destroyed. Okay. So that is how God will test you, literally, by the process. You go through all the things in spirituality. That's basically what is happening. Okay. So that does not mean you are not learning, you're not evolving, you're not growing. You're still evolving, growing in that process. Okay. But if you give up at that step where you did not get any value for your cloth that he had, and he just, started shouting at God, shouting at the people in the bazaar, yelling at them, saying that you don't value this and that, and make a big fuss out of it. That is you limited by your own, bodily limitations, physical limitations as a human being, and you're acting out of your trauma, or you're acting out of your ego for that matter. Okay, you are still acting in the realm of the body. But if you look outside and if you take a step away from that and you see what is really happening to you at that step, right? That what is really happening is there was a test that, oh, you are so attached to this cloth, let me see what I can do to it. Okay. First thing is he gets devalued, no value at all in the market. Second thing is it's tattered into pieces. So if you go through that process instead, you live that process, you go through that destructive process, literally. It's a sort of like a demeaning process, to be honest, right? Where you don't have any value, but you come out stronger on the other side, then you get enlightened, then you get the benefits, then you get the Akshaya, which means the constant source of grains, the constant source of fulfillment in the lap of God. Okay, that's what Shiva is telling you. So if I told this story to the Western audience, they would see the other way around. They would think this is one form of, stupidity for what he did, Devara Dasimayya for that matter. Or they would think, oh no, how could, this beggar test the effect of Dasimayya, who was such a great artist or a great weaver for that matter. Okay. This is not how we approach spirituality in India. All right. The same thing for Seva for that matter. Seva, like, many Westerners, I come from Bangalore in south of India. There is the Ravi Shankar ashram we have, and the other ashrams surrounding it. Many multiple ashrams are there in Karnataka. So they all come from the west to visit these ashrams, and in that ashrams they put these Westerners to the seva. Seva basically means you have to do all kinds of chores in the ashram. Okay, from starting to clean the toilets until the end of whatever the guru is asked to do. Guru will not come and tell you to do that, but these disciples, the other sevaks in the ashram, they will ask you to help and contribute and be a volunteer. So if you are willing to do that, it means you are willing to bend your ego and you're willing to, tear it one bit at a time. All right. If not, if you see that, oh, I'm a CEO of a company, I'm a scientist, I'm a president of a country, and I'm here to, do all these kinds of chores in the ashram, then that enlightenment will not reach you at any point. Okay. So I gave you two examples. One was the story of, Chakravarti Bali. Second was the story of Devara Dasimayya. And if you want to go a little bit step further, you can also try to find the story of Milarepa and Marpa from the Tibetan Buddhism. That is an ecstatic story. That's an amazing story for spirituality. That literally shows you how gurus operate, okay, how Jupiter operates. All right. And you will see what kind of horrors Milarepa had to go through because of Marpa. Okay. Yet at the end of it all, Milarepa came out awakened being. He came out an enlightened being. He attained the state of moksha and liberation. Whereas if he was always complaining and repeating the same patterns over and over again, and if a Western audience for that matter would have gone through what Milarepa has gone through, you would have seen that this was spiritual abuse. People would have complained. People would have made a big case out of it, and Marpa would have been behind bars for that matter. But Marpa, what he was doing behind the scenes, what he was trying to induce in Milarepa was devotion, was bhakti, was to bend the ego, was to destroy the ego, was to make him aware that you are not the body, you are not who you think you are. There is something more to you than what you are. Okay, do not get too attached to this body, to this worldly realm. Okay, do not be a slave of your sense organs. Okay, do not live in this gross reality of these things. So Jupiter and Venusian ways of doing things, do not expect that it will always be in your favor. Okay, so that's the realm that you're in. Because see, it's not that they want to make you go through those experiences, but they have their own ways of doing those things. Okay, but it will become very clear if you, as an astrologer, pay attention to what is being taught to you by the rishis, it will become very clear. So if you know the Jaimini Sutra, Jupiter is called Na Vagmi. Okay, Na Vagmi means that one who does not speak much. Okay, if you have seen Indian gurus in ancient times, and if you have been aware of some of them, they would not speak much. Okay, they would not arrange a counseling, they would not sit with you, explain to you ABCD of your spirituality and so on. No, it does not work like that. Okay, barely you will get a counsel with them. If you get even a darshan, which means if you see them once in 6 months or 1 year of being in the ashram, then you will be considered a lucky person. Okay, that is the nature of Jupiter. And I think this is probably one of the reasons where the Indian astrologers, they're extremely smart, I believe. Initially, when I was into astrology, when I really got into counseling myself, I thought it was not right for the Indian astrologers not to counsel. Okay, I always felt they are only going on predicting, telling this will happen then, this will happen here. Okay, you will meet this person, you will have this life, and so on. They were always meant with predictive skills. Okay, but I always thought, why they don't counsel, why they don't tell things to people to make their life better? Because counseling, really, what is it at the end of the day? If you see that What it does is you're going through a lot of problems. You come to a counselor or therapist or a psychologist or a psychiatrist, they will figure out the root cause of the problem. They will tell you this. But at the end of it, who has to do the work? Is it the counselor has to do the work or you have to do the work? It's the person that is going through the trauma, right? Okay. At the moment, I can be empathetic. I can, be very calm, kind to you, listen to your stories, and tell you, oh, you made this kind of a judgment which was wrong there. Okay, you're acting this way because you had some issues with your father. You are acting this way because there were some issues in the environment that time. Okay, wherever you are born, or you have certain understandings or prejudices that is not correct. Okay, I can tell you all those things just listening to you. But at the end of it, who has to make that giant leap to heal? It is you, right? So counseling is one form of, I would say, one form of motivational speaking or one form of empathetic listening. Okay, that is all fine. I'm not saying it is bad, it's extremely good. I recommend people go to therapy, and especially in certain cultures where it is still a taboo, I would say consider going to therapy. I would highly recommend it. But what I'm trying to tell is there is a wisdom that comes by listening to yourself also, listening within yourself. What is the truth? And by not denying things and seeing things for what they are, okay, not making it too convoluted and complex by whatever unnecessary jargon is going on within you, okay. And when I think about it, the Indian astrologers, I believe, they did not want to counsel because one, of course, maybe they thought it was too much work. Second, I always felt they would have to answer to so many people. Okay. So the way I normally do readings is I tell things as they are with respect to the placements. Okay, if there is a yoga in the chart, if I see, for instance, there is a Kapata yoga, which means it's a deceit yoga. I see a Lakshmi yoga, okay, which means it's a wealth combination. You saw probably, like I said in the transits video which I made, I told the pros and cons, the good and bad of everything for every ascendant as it is. I never sugarcoated my words. And I told very clearly that I don't have a chart in front of me. So you have to take this as a tutorial, process it, and see what it means to you. Okay. But you will never see anyone on YouTube as an astrologer probably giving you negative predictions for any transits. They would not. But I did because that is the truth. I know many people probably did not like me for that, but I also got very good feedback. Many subscribers, many people wrote me emails and told, thank you so much. It's very different from whatever I've heard from other astrologers. It's way too detailed. All those things I heard. Point I'm trying to make here is that if an Indian astrologer, so if an Indian astrologer sat in front of you and he made some predictions and did not tell you why he made those predictions and what is making him tell you some negative predictions as well, then you look perplexed, you look lost, you'll feel that it did not make any sense getting this reading. How could he tell that? What made him tell that? These kind of questions will be in your head. So normally what I do is I explain the yogas, I explain what is there in the chart, certain placements, etc. And I tell that these placements are here for this reason. You have to understand, that how you need to act, what you need to change so that these placements don't make negative impact on you or they don't manifest in the negative ways for you. So that does not mean just because I tell those yogas are there or the things are there, if you sit there without acting, it is all going to happen the way I predicted for the good things. No, if there is a Lakshmi yoga, still you need to work, you need to take responsibility, you need to work and have a career, right? If there is a Kapata yoga and there is deceit, you need to be conscious about it. Otherwise, it's going to ruin everything in your life, including your relationships. Okay. So Things like that are there, but I use it in the context of counseling, in the context of making things better. All right. But if you see, again, the Indian astrologers, they are very wise people, I think. They never counsel because they have to answer everyone to these things. If some Indian astrologer told, oh, you have this Kapata yoga and this is why you are going to be like this, the client will ask 100 questions to that Indian astrologers and they will start even cursing that Indian astrologer or, um, give him a bad review and make him feel bad. Okay, does not really matter that he's just reading the things as it is presented to him in the chart. But I think he's a wise person not to use too many words to explain. Instead, they would do a 2 minute, 3 minute reading, very accurate ones many times, and tell you this will happen at that stage, and thank you, bye bye, and you'll have to pay some $200 for that, and you'll be fine. Okay. On the other hand, you have people like me, in front of the client, fully giving their full energy, sitting there talking continuously for 2, 3 hours, without drinking water many times. And yet, people just, at the end of it, they don't process it, and all that reading goes into drain sometimes. So there are those pros and cons. You see, you have to be like Jupiter. You choose to be like Jupiter. It's smart. Okay, now Agni, you do very short reading, and you make a lot of money also maybe sometimes, and lot of energy is saved, and you are smart. Okay, very smart. And sometimes don't tell anything also. Just tell them a few things that are going to make them very happy and send them. That's the nature of these things. And then the other way to look at it is the Venusian point of view. Okay, like I was explaining in the Vamana avatar, Bali's tutor or his guru was Venus, Shukracharya. Venus is a very practical guru. Okay, and it's very important way of addressing things. And Venus in the Jaimini Sutras, Maharisi Jaimini gives, he says, Kavira Vagmi Kavyagnyascha, which means Venus is like a poet. Okay, he speaks in poetic ways. All right. So you'll see very interesting people who are Venusian astrologers. They will not even tell you things directly. All right. They would use some phrases. They would use certain lines which do not make any sense. Okay. And especially in tarot readings, you'll say this quite a lot. They would say, you would get a reading from them, and probably you had a question about relationships and they saw a nine of spades show up. Okay, and they would say, next year you are going to live like a hermit. All right, so question was about relationships, and the answer you got was, next year you're going to live like a hermit. Does it make sense? No. But for an astrologer or someone who knows what they're telling, right, it makes sense to him. That's all. He's not going to explain. Very poetically, he's told you next year you're going to live like a hermit. So, what will you make sense of that? Okay. So, you have to dig a little bit deeper. If you're going to live like a hermit, probably your relationship will end. A nine of spade is one of those cards that can end a relationship. Maybe someone dies in the relationship or someone is separated in the relationship by distance. Any of this can happen. But he just told you, the reader, that you're going to live like a hermit. Do you want those kind of readings? Go to a Venus person. Okay. So Venus person will give you those kind of eloquent, poetic phrases which will not make any sense, and you'll have to make sense of it by yourself. Okay. If you are a contemplative person, if you have a very good moon, Venus, Jupiter in your chart, you will be able to derive meaning from that. Otherwise, the whole astrology, the tarot, the reading will, especially like psychic mediums, they will do that. They will tell you these things and it will make no sense to you, and you will just, feel like this person is so out of this world. They are out of touch of reality. I don't know what they're talking about. You'll tell they're probably mad also, but they're not mad. They're trying to tell you things in a different way. All right. And even if you think about it, right, if you see how poems are, right, if you take a poem for that matter, the poem is very much dependent on the poet, not the reader. Because the poet would have written a poem about a certain object or a certain nature phenomenon, etc. But the reader, when he listens or reads that poem, he might think something different. Okay, for instance, the poem could have been about, sunrise or sunset. Okay, but the cryptic way that the poet has used the words, if he's very good in language, right, if he's used the right kind of words, it might be about spirituality. Okay, it can be about awakening, for example. But you'll first time read it and you'll think, oh, the poet is actually describing about sunrise and sunset. What a beautiful poem. But if you really paid attention to that, he might be talking about a very deep philosophy of spirituality. There are poets like that in my country. Okay, so if you're not able to understand that, then you'll not be able to process that reading that you get from Venusian astrologer, because they will be extremely poetic. And again, they might mean something else. Okay, they, because their thought, their intention is something else in their mind, but you might interpret it something else. So that's why you have to be very careful with those kind of understandings. Another interesting thing Maharisi Jaimini gives for Venus is that he calls Venus Kaminaha Shatendriyascha Shukre. Okay, which means Venus is amorous and he has 100 sense organs. All right, anyone can have 100 sense organs? No, we are only limited by five. But Maharshi Jaimini gives Venus that high capacity. He says that Kaminaha Shatendriyascha Shukre. All right, so it's extremely powerful placements for Venus, Venus as astrologers. Okay, again, they are highly capable, highly intuitive people. They will gain everything insight from the nature. They will gain insight from the chart, and they will gain insight by events around them. Okay, even before you arrive, they would have told you what you saw on the way, who you met on the way, all those kind of things. It's like visions they get. Highly capable people, but again, remember, these are two gurus, okay, Venus and Jupiter. Do not expect that every time you hear what you want to hear, it's not going to happen, okay? In fact, even in Prashna readings, you will see that the person goes to the astrologer or a medium or a psychic for that matter, they ask a question about something else. Okay, they might ask again a question about their career, but they might get an answer about their health. Okay, it's totally non-related. You'll see, what did I ask and what did I get? It's not connected. It might be connected, right? For example, you might again um, have a certain energy burnout coming up, and you might just not be able to work for an extended period of time, like a 1 year window. What will happen then? It is still connected to your career. You see, there is a reason that the medium is talking about your health rather than career, because they want you to work. If your question is about career, they are going to tell you fix your health. All right, so they're going to tell you, okay, next couple of months certain things will happen that will make you feel burnt out, so you don't want to be in that phase. So they would talk to you about how are your health patterns, are you sleeping well, are you eating good food. Okay, these are the questions they might ask, which will surprise you. you know like, I'm asking a question about my career, I'm asking when will I get my next promotion. Suddenly the reader is asking about how is your health, what do you eat daily, what time are you sleeping, how many hours are you working. If these questions come, then you'll be again dumbfounded, like, where did this come from, right? But that is the capacity of a Venus. Okay, that is the capacity of a wise person to see that this is coming up. All right, so I have to talk to them about this, not their career, because career now is secondary while health is primary focus. Okay, this is again in the realm of wisdom. All right, so do not expect that the two gurus, which people, again the Western audience particularly, they have a very fancy liking for Jupiter, Venus, to always give them nice things, great things, right? And again, it's not going to happen. Okay, you will hear what you must hear, what is meant to be heard. Okay, the astrologer is just a medium. All right, anyone is, for that matter, is a medium. And if you trust that person, you have to trust them fully that they will do that job, and God will operate through them to deliver that message to you. Okay, so you have to really go with that kind of an open mind. Okay, it's very important.